On this episode of Locked On Angels, it's time to grade the bullpen, who was one of the better stories in Anaheim this year. Did I just say that about the Angels bullpen? What grades did you give the relief pitchers? Let's find out. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to give back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, please subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation. And this episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Thank you for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Hey, we're here 5 days a week talking Angels baseball, always a half hour a day, quick and easy, get you in, get you out. Nothing like it. In fact, we're talking Angels baseball Monday through Friday, all the way until late December. We'll drop down to 3 episodes at that point. But for the meantime, we're here 5 days a week. On today's show, we're going through your grades, the grades that you gave to the Angels roster. In fact, we're talking about the bullpen, the relief pitching on today's show. 0 to 4 grades. We'll give a letter grade to each one. Let's get it started, Mike, with the guys that are probably locks for 2025 that we'll definitely see in the bullpen come next season.
The first guy that we got to talk about is Ben Joyce. Everydayers gave him a 3.59 score. That's good for a B+. And some of the comments that they left are electric closer, please stay healthy, and Joyce 105.5, 105.5 miles an hour. Johnny, what a godsend Ben Joyce was in the bullpen this year. And that splinker, the second pitch that he began to use, really helped offset his fastball, and he looked more confident than he's ever looked, had a scoreless streak of over 20 innings pitched this last season, and has got to be the guy that's going to be at least the 8th inning guy next year, maybe the 9th inning, depending on what they do with Robert Stevenson when he comes back, his injuries. But I love Ben Joyce, and he had a really great year, and I do want him to stay healthy. So I high five that perspective, that announcement from our everydayers.
You know, correct me if I'm wrong, everydayers, but I believe Stevenson himself was a setup man in his time as well. So I easily see Ben Joyce closing next season, especially given what he's done, how he improved from the season before. Mike, I was looking at comments from last year, and control was one of the things that, you know, our everydayer said last year about him. He needs control. And I think he got it. I think he learned how to throw that fastball better. I think he knows when to throw that fastball. That splinker as well, I think, is going to keep him healthy because he's not just pumping in 100+ every single time. So, you know, the health concern is always going to be there. But I think it was good that they shut him down, gave him some rest for the rest of the offseason. Speaking of scoreless streaks, let's talk about Ryan Zeferjahn, Mike. 1.96. He got a D+, solid bullpen arm were some of your comments. They want to see more. They want to see a larger sample size. But a lot of our everydayers said that they could see him in the 2025 bullpen as a piece in that pen.
Feels low. That feels like a low grade. I don't know if I would go D+. I think I'd be maybe more mediocre, like C. I think I'd be neutral on Zeferjahn, just because he's somebody that still has a lot of growth and is somebody that I would like to see more of. John, he was a part of that 4-player deal, 4-for-1 with Luis Garcia. And so to see him come over and us to get a bunch of good arms for Garcia, I think was a great trade. And Zeferjahn seems to be somebody that we can expect to be in the bullpen next season, a late inning guy, maybe a 5th inning, 6th inning, 7th inning type of pitcher for the Angels.
I'm a B with Zeferjahn. I think that D+ is way too low, especially given the scoreless streak, especially coming over in a trade for Luis Garcia. I think he has all that stuff factored in there. So I think one of our everydayers pointed out, is there some recency bias? Because a lot of these grades seem low. And I'm like, it feels like a lot of them are lower than they've been in the past. But at the same time, I feel like you said, the bullpen was one of the better stories of this season. And we'll get to some of those good pieces as well. To me, Zeferjahn, I think, deserves at least a B.
Yeah, Jose Quijada is the next guy, 1.88 score, a D+. Learn another pitch was one of the comments. Fastball, 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 and still inconsistent. He's got to be able to throw at least one, I would say 2 other pitches, John, just because he had a great streak of coming into games and striking out guys. But then once they knew that all they were getting was the fastball, he would try to throw a slider in there, and he was not even close to the strike zone. And so Quijada, if he's going to be a piece in the bullpen next year, which all indications are that he will, he's got to be able to throw a secondary pitch effectively, similar to what Ben Joyce is doing as well. And because this bullpen with Zeferjahn, Joyce, and Quijada, they have a lot of really hard pitchers, hard throwing pitchers. And so they're going to need to have some soft pitches in their repertoire to be able to throw off some of the batters, because if you're just throwing a hard pitch, they're going to pick up on that quickly. And we saw that with Quijada this season.
Yeah, he tried to throw the changeup a couple of times and it just wasn't effective. But the fact is, his location is still a problem for Quijada. You know, he's recovered from Tommy John. I imagine that if there's smart people somewhere in the organization, they'll have him work on another pitch over the offseason. Mike, let's talk about Hans Kraus, who got a 2.01. That's good for a C- from our everydayers. They said he started strong. They see him in the 2025 bullpen. Somebody said, good find. And I think he was a good find, right?
Yeah, he's the Brendan Donnelly of the bullpen this last season. Brendan Donnelly pitched for the Angels early 2000s, was a part of the 2002 World Series team, and he had kind of a same sort of windup as well. But Hans Kraus was somebody that I really liked in this bullpen, and I think he'll be somebody that will be a great arm for the Halos. And what's interesting about the Halos bullpen is that they have really struggled over the last few years to try to put a bullpen together. And now all of a sudden, it's probably one of the best pieces for the Angels and something that they don't have to worry about next season, which probably means that they're going to need to worry about it next season, right?
Yeah, coming into the season all confident with an area, it feels like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. We'll be just fine there. And then you find out in the beginning of the season, whoops, we made a mistake. Yeah, I imagine they'll bring Hans Kraus back, at least to AAA, if not back with the major league club to start next season. Performed well enough out of the bullpen. He would have gotten like a C from me as well. He had a great start, sort of struggled before he got sent down, and would like to see him back with the Angels. Let's talk about Roansy Contreras. He got a 1.62 grade from our everydayers. That's good for a D. Some of the comments there were inconsistent, not bad, meh, okay. And the book is still out. There was a lot of comments kind of in that theme of just, I'm not really sure what to think of Roansy Contreras. And personally, Mike, I think that he proved enough to say that he is a good bullpen piece. He even took on some high leverage situations. I know he wasn't successful in all of those high leverage situations. I wonder, because of his previous history as a starter with the Pittsburgh Pirates, if he's going to be somebody that they talk to over the offseason and say, hey, you need to stretch out. You need to figure out what it means for you to be a starter, because that might be a path that they go, just because they do need a lot of depth in the starting rotation. And that's, you know, even after they make additions, whatever additions they plan on making over the offseason, if they do, and they still need a lot of depth. I still think that they need a lot of starting pitching. But as far as Roansy Contreras goes out of the bullpen, there was a good streak there where he did very well. So our everydayers gave him a D. I'd say a C because he was good and sometimes he wasn't. So for me, it's kind of an average grade. What do you have to say about Contreras?
I think he's the guy that is the Ronaldo Lopez, the Jose Soriano on this team. I think he's the guy that they need to move into a starting pitcher position. He's somebody that has pitched that way before. I think why he struggled last year is they weren't sure what they were doing with him. And he was kind of coming in at different points in the game. He was an opener, and then he was a starter, and then he was a long reliever, and then he was at the end of the game. And then, hey, let's put him in that high leverage situation in the 9th inning. And,
right.
I mean, it was all over the place. And so I don't think Ron Washington made a decision on how he was going to use him. And we've heard from the players that it is helpful to know, like, this is what I'm working on and this is who I am. And so I'm going to go out there and do that. John, I think, and to your point that you made on the show yesterday, the Angels are going to have to find some of these some of these pieces that are hidden, that are raw, that you have to kind of mold and shape. And I think that would be the wisest decision, to move Roansy Contreras into a starter role and let him be a depth piece on this team. I don't know if he's in the starting rotation. I wouldn't even say that he would be on the major league roster in the starting rotation to start the season, but certainly in AAA, working on some things, stretching some things out. And I would have that conversation with him yesterday. I mean, I would talk about that with him now. Let's stretch him out. Spring training, he's already there. He's already got his mind focused on that. Connect him with Barry Enright. And that way he's already working on what they want him to work on for 2025.
Yeah, they've had success with, guys like Jose Soriano. And again, going back to his history as a starter, it's there. And I'm sure he has the repertoire. It's just honing in and fine tuning those things. But as far as those 5 guys go, it seems like they're going to appear in some form or fashion in the bullpen. If not, Contreras does get stretched out and do that sort of thing. So Joyce, Zeferjahn, Quijada, Kraus, Contreras, I think that you can fully expect to see those guys at least in the bullpen, considering Roansy Contreras, but the other 4, I think you'll definitely see them in 2025. And as we continue this episode, you're going to see that they have a lot of options to go to for the bullpen. And when you consider, what do you need, about 8, 9, 10 arms out of that pen, I think that they have some pretty good options to go to. And that's not even to mention the minor leagues. These are guys who just happen to be on the team this season and will continue on with them into next season. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. When we continue, we're going to get into the guys who, are kind of on the edge. Maybe they'll be in the bullpen. Maybe they'll start in the minor leagues, but they'll definitely show up in the pen at some point. We'll get into that conversation coming right up.
This episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by Prize Picks. They're America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. And it's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, Prize Picks allows you to play just against the numbers. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch those winnings roll in. And right now, you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. So download the Prize Pick app today and use our promo code when you download it and you log in. And our promo code is Locked On MLB. You're going to get $50 instantly, and all you need to do is play $5. So you're already up $45 using our promo code Locked On MLB on Prize Picks. Again, get $50 instantly when you play $5. Don't even need to win. You just receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game.
And today's show is brought to you by Booking.com. Mike, I'm going to need you to fist pump since I'm doing the ad read. It's your turn. So Booking.com, explore these U.S. cities as you secretly wanted to know more about them. Your baseball rivals, maybe you're me and you're not a big fan of the Mariners, but you kind of want to go to Seattle. Well, you can do that with Booking.com. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city and during the postseason. Maybe it's time to taste test your baseball competition's stadium cuisine. And with Booking.com, you can find the right stadium stay that's right for you. With Booking.com's wide variety of choices across the United States, you can go incognito, pull that hat down over your eyes, to all your baseball rival cities. No matter what team you're rooting for this postseason, Booking.com can make you a fan of any U.S. city. Booking.com, Booking.yeah.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, and you're listening to and watching Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day, and we would love for you to get some Super Halo Brothers merch. You can get a shirt and look like the Super Halo Bros in all different shapes and sizes. Johnny on the audio or on the video side is showing some examples of what the shirt might look like, some of the caricatures of what might be on your shirt. Go ahead, John.
These are stickers you can get on the merch shop as well. As you can see, I've used 3 of them. My wife took one and put one on her water bottle, so she's repping the Halo Bros on her water bottle. But yeah, these stickers they're great. They got the white outline and everything. It's good stuff. Mike, nobody's used yours around here yet, so just we're going to have to fix that.
You're going to have to put it up on the wall. Give it to Lemon. Let him play with it. So you can go to the episode description. There's a link there where you can get your Super Halo Brothers merch. It helps out the show. It helps out John and I. And it helps you to be a part of the Super Halo Brothers family here at Locked On Angels. So get your merch today.
Mike, we're going to talk about some of the bullpen arms that were used this season and will likely be seen again in 2025. And I want to start out with Jose Marte, who got a 1.5. That's good for a D letter grade. Some of the comments from our everydayers said he showed potential. Please stay healthy. And he's getting better. And I actually agree with that assessment that he is getting better. Other than the injury, seemed like a different Jose Marte this year, right?
Yeah, he was somebody that was not did not exude confidence in my heart or in a lot of everydayer and fans' hearts when he would come into the game. But this year looked like a different pitcher. And I think that he could be somebody that they could really count on, especially if Contreras does move to the starting rotation or becomes a starter. Another name, Johnny, is Ryan Miller. He's intriguing. He got a 1.41 score, a D from our everydayers. Small sample size where some of the comments deserves a chance and a 2025 bullpen piece, bullpen potential. John, I really liked Ryan Miller. He did have a couple of implosions in the games, but that's to be expected from somebody that's learning how to pitch the major league level and learning how to pitch in the bullpen, right?
Yeah, not a bad pickup at all for the Angels. In fact, they got him in a Rule 5 draft. I believe it was 2023, and he's 28 years old, and he made his debut with the Angels this season. But I like the stuff. I think there's good things there, and I think it's important that he's part of this bullpen next season. Mike, the next two guys kind of were the swingmen of this bullpen and rotation. We'll start with Carson Fulmer, a 1.88 grade. That was good for a D+. Many of the comments said he did his job. He was an innings eater and a good long relief option. Mike, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on Carson Fulmer as an innings eater, considering I feel like you're the one who, really is particular about eating innings around here. So what do you have to say about that?
Well, I think that our everydayers, I wouldn't take their class in college because they're tough on the grades here, man.
They're tough,
I don't know if I wouldn't give him a D+. I think Carson Fulmer, in the role that he was asked to play, he fulfilled it swimmingly, beautifully, because he was somebody that had to start at the end of the season. And I know that he would go about 4 1/3 innings pitched, but he pitched really well. And then there was a couple of games where he went deeper into the game and was kind of the tough luck loser, or because the Angels weren't able to give him any runs. So I would give him probably a high C, a low B, John, just because he was somebody that pitched really well. And he did what I love. He ate innings, and he didn't eat innings while giving up a ton of earned runs. And that's the problem with some of these guys. We'll talk about Suarez in just a moment, and even Kenny Rosenberg. Suarez and Rosenberg gave up a lot of runs while they're eating innings, and Carson Fulmer didn't do that. Plus, Carson Fulmer, because he loves being at the major league level and he knows that time is limited, he was catching every first pitch.
Ceremonial first pitch.
Before the game. And he did that because he knows that this is a privilege to be here. And so I like guys like that. I like guys that honor the place that they're at, the position that they have. I like guys that recognize, like, I want to continue to earn this and I want to enjoy this while I'm here.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen a higher grade for Carson Fulmer as well. C at the very least for me. Jose Suarez, 0.86 score.
I agree with this one.
0.86 score. That's a good for an F letter grade. Comments were, he's still here. Blackmail was a common theme, as in, does he have blackmail on somebody because he still has a job? And then velo spike, which we noticed when he came back, there was a velocity tick up there. So, maybe that'll take him places. But Mike, it's just so frustrating. He won't go away. Jose Suarez is here to stay. They will have the option to tender or non-tender him a contract. And what are the odds going to be that the Angels will tender him a contract? Because they just can't quit Jose Suarez. It's just something I don't quite understand.
Yeah, they evaluate him in a different way than most people do. It feels like they have different metrics. Yeah, it feels like they have different metrics for Jose Suarez, because what we've seen as fans is not somebody that I would tender a contract to. However, I think he will get a contract, and I think he'll be back because they want multiple arms, young arms, and he's still quite young. And man, if he could just get fixed, If they could figure out what it is about him, that'd be great. But I feel like we've been doing that for so many years. Maybe what the Angels need to do is have Barry Enright work with the Angel pitchers and then hire Brent Strom, who's a free agent and not with the Diamondbacks anymore.
Right.
That's where Enright came from. Have Brent Strom work with these guys that need to be fixed and just have him be kind of the side hustle guy. Hey, we're going to send you to Brent's house and he's going to work with you and figure out why. Brent. Right. And figure out why you're struggling and figure out why you can't do the things that we hoped that you would do. Johnny, Jose Suarez is just, he's a pain, right? He's somebody that just stays around and you take as much Advil and Tylenol as you can, but he just doesn't seem to go away.
Yeah. Let's talk about Kenny Rosenberg, a 1.35 score that was good for a D letter grade, innings eater, mop up man, and a lot of comments saying he thought he'd get better, thought he'd improve from this season to last season. So Kenny gets a D grade, kind of like what you already alluded to, Mike, just taking innings, but just not successful innings. Lots of earned runs given up there. Why don't you talk about Brock Burke? He's very interesting to me.
Yeah, Brock Burke, I think, deserves a higher grade. He got a 1.79 score and a D+. Good bullpen piece, good pickup. A Matt Moore replacement is what somebody said. I really like Brock Burke, and I would have given him at least a C because he was somebody that came in and did his job. And you're going to have bad moments, and he had some bad moments, but I think he came in and did his job, and I will not be shocked if he's in this bullpen next season as an arm that we count on.
Bryce Paterick from Locked On Rangers was very upset that he was having so much success with the Angels because he was like, why'd the Rangers let him go? I just don't understand. And so, their losses are a gain. Gio Zuniga was interesting because he was hurt a lot of the season, but Mike, he's actually got some years of control and arbitration left. So I'm interested to see whether the Angels have him stick around. A 1.30 grade, good for a D letter grade. Comments were meh, needs development, and showed some potential for Gio Zuniga. Finally, let's talk about Victor Medeiros, who, has been a starter in the minor leagues, but the major league club just loves to see him be a relief guy.
Yeah.
And he's only 23 years old. He's had, pretty moderate success as a starter in the minor leagues, but a 1.01 grade is good for a D-. People said he had a bad season, needs more improvement, and back to the minors with Victor Medeiros. Mike, the problem is he's on the 40-man, and I think that's why we've seen him so many times.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Victor Medeiros?
Decide what you're going to do with him. It's just like Roansy Contreras. Decide what you're going to do with him. If he's going to be a starter, make him a starter. If he's going to be in the bullpen, then let him focus on being in the bullpen. I think, Johnny, that they should move in the starter direction because, again, they need some depth, and he might be another arm that they can do that flexibility thing with. It's
what he's been doing in the minors, too. So it's so odd to me that, like, every time he comes up, it's all right, you're out of the bullpen, and we never know when you're going to get used. So I know that the results aren't there and it looks bad, but man, talk about tossing him around like a dryer, right? Like just in the tumbler, just going like this. That's what it feels like with Victor Medeiros. So I feel bad that he hasn't had a set role with the major league club.
Yeah, I mean, whatever happened to the Slack channel that Barry Enright was going to create that would have all of the different levels of conversation? Here's what's happening in single A, double A, triple A, because it felt like when a lot of these guys came to major league level, like Ron Washington wasn't checking his Slack. That was the problem. He wasn't checking his Slack, and he wasn't using these guys the way that they were being used in the minor leagues. And I think that that's part of the problem. That disconnect has to be connected this next season.
I don't know about you, but when I was on multiple Slack channels for work, you just stop checking it. You just get tired of that noise, that wood block, and you just stop checking it. So if somebody stops checking their Slack, I totally understand why.
This episode of Locked On Angels is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book, and they want you to be a really smart bettor, and you can be on the app. When you get a hunch in the middle of a game and you want to make a bet, you can check the live stats, view the play-by-play, and so much more, and get on the same page. Get on the same page with other bettors and find out what would be the best bet. Maybe you checked your Slack channel and you found out that everybody's betting on this. And so you went into the app and you said, ooh, that's a good bet. And you placed your bet and you won. And FanDuel wants you to be a winner and be a smart bettor. And you can do that with their app. Right now, you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And it's all available at FanDuel.com.
Mike, the last group of relief pitchers that we're going to go over Now I will say this: we had everybody score every relief pitcher, but we're not going to get to everybody.
Yeah,
because some guys were here, flash in the pan, real quick. Amir Garrett, right? Those kinds of guys. Mike Bowman, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So these were the guys who were actually here.
Episode.
Yeah, there you go. And did something. And there's kind of a question of, do we bring some of these guys back? Do we let them go? Now here's Carlos Estévez, who had yet another season-ending grand slam hit against him last night in the Phillies-Mets game. Unfortunate. But for our everydayers, while he was here with the Angels, he got a really solid grade. He got a 3.20 score, good for a B grade. People said, great season, bring him back, and thank you, Carlos. A lot of that thank you is for the prospects that he brought back from the Phillies for us, right?
Right. I don't know if I would want him back. And not because I don't like him, not because I'm not a fan of his. I thought it'd be great to bring him back when we traded him. But then that grand slam that he gave up yesterday, it reminded me of why he can be so frustrating, because he can be dominant, and then blow a game where you desperately needed that. And I know that that's part of being a closer. I know that that's part of being a relief pitcher. Here's the thing, Johnny, to just go off script for just a moment. It wasn't in the late innings. This was in the sixth inning. Right. Yeah. And so they brought him in the sixth inning because they were trying to bring in some of their best arms in those moments. And Carlos Estévez is not good in those moments. The numbers, I think, will back me up. I haven't looked at them, but he's not good in those moments. He's good in moments late in the inning. I would say he's been better in late inning moments. Not perfect, but better. And to bring him in the sixth inning, I think, was a mistake. And that's the piece with Carlos Estévez that you have to wrestle with, is you have to put him in the right situation. You have to give him a clean inning. You can't have him in a tie game because he struggles in tie games. And so with Carlos Estévez, you have to really be like the one who's here's the strings on Pinocchio, and I'm going to make him dance this way and make him move that way. Right
now, here's the thing: he was in the game the night before, and to me, it was like, who let Carlos go out there twice, 2 times in a row? Like, who's not been watching Carlos all season long? Because I knew you can't run him out there back-to-back games. And the fact that
playoffs,
he was and this is his first time in the playoffs. So, congrats to him. And this is a moment that he needed to meet, and he didn't meet it this time. And so I'm with you. It's not because of what happened last night. I just think that it's important for the Angels to spend money elsewhere and to bring Carlos Estévez back. I think they have their Carlos Estévez. They have plenty of guys who can throw hard, throw in the late innings, and also give up grand slams when you need them to not do that. They have plenty of those guys, Mike. Yeah, exactly.
John, when we talk about innings eaters, I think the next guy is another example of a good innings eater, and that's Hunter Strickland, who was going to retire, and then the Angels have him on the roster, and he ends up being one of the best bullpen pieces they had this year. Our everydayers gave him a 2.3 score. That's a C. They said solid reliever, workhorse, reliable veteran. I know he had a couple of games where it was like, come on, Hunter, like, you got to come through in that moment. But he was better than he was bad. And I think he's somebody that is your 5th inning, 6th inning guy. I would bring him back because you're not going to spend too much on Hunter Strickland. And I think that you bring him back with the mindset like, hey, he's going to be in the middle of this bullpen. And if he doesn't do well, then you can send him away, and you've got other arms that you can bring up and fill his role, I think, in an easy sort of puzzle piece kind of way.
Yeah, man. If there's some qualities that we don't see as fans, and probably that is the veteran presence, I am just so hesitant when there's a guy who does well with the Angels and then they walk, and then there's conversations about bringing him back. I think of Mike Moustakas. I think of this year with Kevin Pillar and even Hunter Strickland. I'm like, man, do I want them to come back and hope that they can do what they did this past year? As far as the C grade goes, I at least give him a B minus, just because it felt like one of our everydayers put it this way: for every 10 good outings Hunter Strickland had, he would have 1 bad outing, and it felt like that way for most of the season. Mike, one of the things that makes me hesitant to bring somebody like that back is Matt Moore, because I was a huge fan of Matt Moore, and I even wanted him back over the last offseason when we did our GM episode. But boy, he really struggled this year, didn't he?
Yeah, 1.23 score from our everydayers, D minus, disappointing, better in 2023. unfortunate down year. All of that I 100% agree with. Matt Moore really struggled this year, and he was somebody that you couldn't be confident in to get an out when you needed him to get an out. And I don't know if it was because he's figured out or if he's not healthy, but he was somebody that really was disappointing this year. Somebody that I loved having on the team, and I was surprised that I love having on the team, was Luis Garcia. Luis Garcia had a good start to the season, got a 2.08 score, a C- from our everydayers, and this summarizes how I feel about it. Some good, some bad is what some said. Fleeced the Red Sox, and thanks for the prospects. John, that was a great trade, wasn't it?
Yeah, especially with the way that he did terrible for the Red Sox the rest of the way.
And then was injured.
Yeah, and was injured, and then we get all the prospects back for Luis Garcia. Man, I know that some of those prospects are going to be hit and miss, but at the same time, you really have to look at the fact that Garcia was going to be gone anyway, and so you get 4 pieces back that you can, take a gamble with, take a risk on, and I think there's going to be some value there when it comes to those pieces. Mike, somebody I'm really disappointed with that didn't work out this season was Adam Cimber. Started out great and then got really struggled as the season wore on. And then he got hurt, but he got a score of a 1.29. That was good for a D-. Some of the comments were great, then struggled, not healthy. And then the submarine sank because he was that submarine pitcher. And you mentioned this in the first segment. There are a lot of guys who throw really hard, and they, of course, have different stuff. But what I liked about Adam Cimber was he just gave hitters a different look. You get used to these high heat guys, and then Cimber comes in with this submarine arm, and he's throwing his fastball at 87, and then he's got nasty slider and all that stuff. I was really excited about that. I think the health kind of caught up with him again, so I'm not sure that he's somebody that they would bring back. I know that he was DFA'd, and then he did end up back in AAA, but I don't see that connection happening this offseason. But again, I think between our first segment and the second segment, the Angels have a lot of options when it comes to the bullpen, and they haven't even touched the minor leagues yet. And there's so many good arms in the minor leagues. I would say that is probably their best spot too. They have a treasure trove of minor league guys that can come up and pitch out of the bullpen. So 2025 is going to be an interesting one. These grades are really harsh. But maybe next year we'll put it on a curve or something like. No, I'm just kidding. But not so much a lot of great arms, but a lot of options for the bullpen next year.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB with our friend Sully. He's going to help you with this playoff run, all these crazy games that are happening right now. So much fun. He's available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, and he's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.
Hey, give us a follow at Locked On Angels on Twitter and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show on YouTube, get in the comments section, and let us know what you think of the grades, the results. We'd love to get in a conversation with you about the bullpen. Mike, what do we have on deck for tomorrow's show?
We are grading the outfield. So what are your grades? What are your harsh grades for Mike Trout and Mickey Moniak and Joe Adell and all those guys? Let's talk about those grades tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
We've also got DH and a few utility guys that we'll get to as well. We hope you'll come back and join us for that. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here with us, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Friday.
Wonder what grade Aaron Hicks got. You think he got an A?
Oh, boy.
Good old Aaron Hicks.
Right.